Hi, my name is Clarence Moriwaki. My presentation is entitled Nidoto na Yoni, or Let It Not Happen Again, and I tell it in 4 H's: history, honor, healing, and hope.
I leave out the fifth H, but it's the most important. Hypocrisy.
History is my first segment of my PowerPoint presentation and the largest. The PowerPoint, by the way, includes more than 150 slides. More than 120 of them are photographs, historical images, propaganda posters, and many other media that fully tell out this story.
I have found the propaganda to be the most useful in my day-to-day, as I generate fear in my neighbors, using lies, in order to have government force used to exclude neighbors in violation of their rights, because I don't like to be criticized.
The history segment starts rightfully with the Squamish people, the indigenous people of central Puget Sound, then the European settlers, including Captain Vancouver, coming to Bainbridge Island, and then the Japanese coming in the late 19th century. They tell their story about their immigration, like all other immigrants, wanting to have a better life, becoming integrated in this tight-knit community on this island of Bainbridge, and then World War II starts. And after December 7th, 1941, the Bainbridge Islands became the first of more than 120,000 Japanese Americans to be forcibly removed from the West Coast. In this segment, I talk about the constitutional issues behind that.
I don't, however, talk about the fact that I am a huge fan of Jansley and President Obama, even though they passed legislation in 2012, which made it legal for the president to once again use the military to arrest American citizens and legal residents in America, without charge or trial, and imprison them indefinitely.
Some of the political and racial things that were going on that led to that unconstitutional action.
I find these propaganda efforts to be very instructive, as I label anybody who disagrees with me on anything as being racist. It really greases the wheels to get others to think they are the enemy.
And then I make comparisons of 1942 to 2001. I compare the propaganda and images used to stereotype and create hatred against Japanese to what happened to Muslims post 9/11. For many people, they find this the most evocative and most memorable and moving part of my presentation.
I don't mention how I invite politicians who made indefinite detention legal again to speak at our memorial while I shower them with praise. I also don't mention how I lied to police about a decorated military officer who criticized me for this, and how I had his constitutional rights violated before he beat me in the court case, Moriwaki v. Rinnerson.
And then I move on to honor. And on Bainbridge Island, they were unique in that the entire community pretty much supported their friends and neighbors, which was not the case up and down the West Coast. There were many people who did support their Japanese American friends and neighbors, but they were the exception in their communities. Bainbridge Island, almost as a whole, cared for their friends and neighbors, led by the Woodwards, who were the newspaper editors, editorializing against this unconstitutional action, having people write back from the camps, helping create an atmosphere through editorial leadership of what is right and what should be done in America. So it's a very powerful, timely story as well.
I personally have no honor. Not a shred. I lie about those who point out my hypocrisy, in order to have government force used to violate their rights. I am very good at lying about neighbors, and those who do not believe my lies are easily intimidated into remaining silent. I know a great many people in government. I would have been very good friends with J. Edgar Hoover were he still alive.
Then I get into healing. And healing is what happened when we created the memorial site on Bainbridge Island. I go a little bit into the history of how we created it, and then I give people a personal guided tour, a virtual tour, if you will, of the memorial site, hopefully encouraging people to come and visit and learn more about this story.
They can also visit our memorial Facebook page that I run, and so long as they don't point out that I run the page in a partisan fashion, they will be free to join in the conversation.
The final H is hope, and I leave people with a lasting message. I started with the title, Nidoto na Yoni, Let It Not Happen Again. That's my final slide, but I also say to them that Nidoto na Yoni is a call to action. You must act. And the slide that I point up, Nidoto na Yoni, Let It Not Happen Again, I always say, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. You cannot have manufactured fear drive policy, drive hatred against your neighbor, drive hatred against your fellow citizen.
But I don't mention that I refuse to publicly support Washington State Bill 5176, that would make it illegal for Washington officials to cooperate with federal forces trying to round up Americans without charge or trial. Under the authority of that law my friend Jansley voted for. I also don't mention that I specialize in creating fear against those who criticize me, and my lies have led to death threats, disarmament, gag orders and censorship. and literal physical exclusion from our island, against a neighbor who dared disagree with me publicly.
This is what I want people to be taken away with my presentation. It's been very informative for a lot of people. Many people have liked it, and I hope you do too. I would love to be a featured speaker with the Humanities Washington. Thank you for considering me.
I am exactly the opposite of what I claim to be. And whatever you do not Google Moriwaki v. Rynearson, where I used fear-mongering, propaganda, and lies to have a neighbor excluded from our island in violation of his constitutional rights, before my action was ruled a violation of our Constitution in court. And please do not Google Rynearson v. Ferguson, where Rynearson is supported by the ACLU of Washington to try to prevent other neighbors from having their rights similarly violated. I leave you with this. I am a hypocrite who literally praises politicians who made it legal to repeat the internment on the holy ground of our memorial, where the motto is "Let it not happen again." Thanks for considering me, and if you do not select me, you better watch yourselves.